I'm Anthony Gagliardi from Prosperity, South Carolina, and I'm out today. We're out here on Lake Muray today with my buddy Matt. He picked a wonderful summer doldrum day to come out here and try to catch a fish. So we're going to do our best to try to catch a fish. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning, so we're a little bit on the tail end of any kind of topwater bite that might be going on, but that's still what we're going to try to target here for the next little bit, just up until another hour or so when that window's gone. Basically, you know, what we got here, I just pulled up on a real skinny, narrow point that extends, I'm going to say probably 200 or 300 yards back to the bank, and that's kind of the place that, one of the first places that I like to look for when I'm targeting late summer bass like this that are going to be suspended. I'm starting out, this is a Lucky Craft Gunfish, a 95, and as we go along today, I'll probably talk about a couple of other baits that, you know, that I tend to use or at least have on my deck when I'm doing this type of fishing. This is the one I'm going to start out with most of the time. It just seems the size of this bait, it just, you know, it replicates, you know, some of the smaller shad, but you can even get some of the herring fish that are chasing those bigger baits to come up and bite it as well. Now this rod that I'm fishing this 95 on, this is a 7-foot medium heavy worm rod. I actually like the worm rod because it's a little bit stiffer. And I can make those real long casts with it, and a lot of times I'm going to be fishing with braid. If the fish are really aggressive and, you know, they're coming up and biting really good, I'll put it on 50-pound braid, and, you know, I can just make super long casts and get on fish that normally you're going to have to troll a motor over to, and then by the time you get there, they're probably 15 or 20 feet deep, and they're not going to come up for this topwater bait. So, you know, more so than anything, getting the bait on these fish, if they do happen to come up, if they're not wanting to come up, and just calling them up, getting the bait on that fish as soon as you can is the most important thing. The second most important thing is the size of the bait. It's got to be relatively close to the size of the bait fish that they're actively chasing. And when you first look at the Cashion rod, the two things you're going to notice first and foremost are the grip. It's obviously a split grip, which I really like. It's a carbon fiber base, and it has a woven weave over top of it that's extremely strong. You know, it's probably one of the best grips as far as gripping power of anything that I've used, will be it cork or foam, even when it's wet. You know, the first time I fished with them during the rain, I was really surprised at how much grip strength I was able to have with these rods. And, you know, another thing is you got to be comfortable. You know, you have to be comfortable when you're fishing with a rod. And these rods is comfortable in both hands, which is not the case with a lot of rods out there. A lot of rods you pick up and you'll put it in your hand and you're like, yeah, that feels pretty good. But when you put a reel on it and then all of a sudden now you got it in your right hand and you're casting, it may not feel as good, you know, in your casting hand, or it may not feel as good, you know, in your retrieve hand like this. But these are comfortable, and it's probably the most comfortable rod that I've ever put in my hand as far as, you know, as far as it being comfortable casting, you know, as well as fishing. Might see some striper schooling this morning. Oh, there it is. Right on top of that little point right there. Oh, that's nice. Good fish. They've got 4 or 5 with them about the same size too. There we go. Nice suspended topwater bass. When they came up to the surface, there was probably, looked like there was 3 or 4 more with this one, and that's the case a lot of times when you catch a fish that's suspended out off these points like that. When you bring them in, a lot of times you're gonna pull that school with you. Nice, probably 3-pounder or so. That was on this 95 Lucky Craft Gunfish. Fishing this on a 7-foot medium worm rod. Actually, I like that little bit heavier rod for making real long casts with these topwater baits, especially if you're in a situation where the fish might be coming up and busting, and that way you can make a real long cast. And you got enough power to get a good hook set on a long distance cast like that. But yeah, it's just a typical late summertime suspended fish coming up on topwater bait. That feels like another pretty good one there. That bait was, I was bringing that one. I was really bringing that one across the top of the water. He smoked it. Another good one. Little chunky fish. Nice, another topwater gunfish. I got him all wrapped up too. Never in a tournament will you hook one like this, only when you're on camera and you want to talk about something. There we go. That was on the Aurora Black gunfish, and I don't think that color is somewhat important. You know, it's not as big of a deal as a lot of people make it out to be. I think that for me, the most important thing is the belly. You know, I prefer something with a light belly. You know, this one has pretty much of a white belly with some chrome sides, and you know, it's just pretty standard. You know, the black back on this one, yeah, it's okay. It's not something that I have to have. You know, I can use an all white bait sometimes. There are times when I feel like that, you know, you need something that has some variation. A lot of guys will throw a solid white or a bone colored bait, and you know, I've caught them on that before. But you know, when you have something that has, you know, at least one darker side to it, especially the way I'm working this thing where it's actually rolling, you know, those fish are seeing the back, and that color change, a lot of time I think it kind of camouflages the whole bait, and you know, they don't get it doesn't have such a big profile, you know, to those fish as they look at it. So I think sometimes that's key. And this one also has a little bit of flash, which, you know, anytime you're fishing around herring fish, definitely a little flash never hurts. But the white belly, you know, I always be, you know, sure that you're throwing a topwater bait with a white belly.